See this picture here? This happened in a packed stadium right after a World Cup match in Qatar in 2022. Now look at this other scene. It's what usually happens after any game. The floor covered with cups, bottles, flags, and papers. But amid the emptiness, a group of Japanese people remain. They collect every piece of trash, put everything in plastic bags, and leave the place cleaner than they found it. But this wasn't the first time scenes like this have been seen around the world. We've had similar episodes at the World Cup in Brazil in 2014, as well as at the World Cup in Russia in 2018. Now pay close attention to these scenes from airports. If you have ever landed in Japan or seen a video from there, you may have noticed one thing. The bags that arrive on the conveyor belt are not thrown around carelessly. Each employee carefully positions the luggage, all aligned, facing the same direction. It is almost a ritual of respect for each passenger's belongings. These images are no exception. They show something much bigger. They help us understand why Japan is called the most values-driven country in the world. Today, Bello Mundo will show you this almost perfect Japan, but it will also delve into the contrasts, because behind the perfection there is a more rigid, conservative, and even painful side. Number 1. Location and geography. Japan is located in the right corner of the map, at the eastern end of Asia. It is an archipelago with more than 6,000 islands scattered across the Pacific Ocean. But almost the entire population is concentrated on 4 of them: Honshu, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and Shikoku. And even though the country is not huge in terms of territory, it is full of contrasts. Snow-capped mountains share space with active volcanoes. Fertile plains coexist with super-modern cities full of skyscrapers and neon signs. And the 4 seasons appear there in the classic way: cold winter, hot summer, cherry blossoms in spring, and red leaves in autumn. But there is one detail that changes everything. More than 3/4 of Japan's territory is mountainous. This has caused cities to grow squeezed between the sea and the hillside, creating compact and incredibly organized communities. And as if the terrain weren't enough, Japan is also located in one of the most unstable areas on the planet, the Pacific Ring of Fire. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions are part of everyday life. That's why schools conduct emergency drills and why most of the population keeps survival kits at home. But this constant coexistence with risk has not created a paranoid people. It has created a disciplined people. In addition, the archipelago's strategic position has influenced its entire history. Surrounded by the Sea of Japan, the East China Sea, and the Pacific Ocean, the country was isolated for centuries. This helped preserve unique traditions. But it also aroused the greed of neighboring powers. This back and forth between isolation and selective openness to the world helped shape what Japan is today. A modern country, but one deeply attached to its own identity. Number 2. History. For a long time, living in that archipelago meant obeying a strict code of honor, silence, and hierarchy. The country was controlled by shoguns, military leaders, who ruled over even the emperor. Samurai ensured order, and the people lived under an almost feudal system. Everyone had their place and their duty. Everything functioned within a closed balance, and contact with the rest of the world was minimal. But this began to crumble in the 19th century. In 1853, U.S. warships anchored in Edo Bay, now Tokyo. Their mission was to force the opening of Japanese ports. With cannons pointed at them, the country had no choice. Then came the Meiji Restoration. The shoguns lost power, the emperor returned to command, and Japan plunged headlong into modernization. It created factories, railroads, and a modern army. In a few decades, it jumped from the 17th century straight into the 20th. The turnaround was so radical that in 1905, the newly modernized Japanese Navy defeated the powerful Russia. It was the first time that an Asian nation had defeated a European power in a modern war. But this success also brought a thirst for power. Japan occupied Korea, advanced on China, and adopted an increasingly militaristic discourse. In 1941, it attacked Pearl Harbor and dragged the United States into World War II. The rest is history: bombings, defeats, devastation, and finally, 2 atomic bombs. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed in August 1945. Surrender followed, then American occupation, and the end of the colonial empire. The country lost everything, but it started over. In the following decades, it rebuilt itself with impressive speed. It created technology, exported cars and electronics, and became a symbol of efficiency and discipline. The economy skyrocketed. The world witnessed the so-called Japanese miracle. This sequence, isolation, shock, war, rebirth, helps explain a lot. A country that values order and collectivity, but also faces modern dilemmas because it carries so much historical weight on its shoulders. Number 3. Values and good manners. At train stations, no one needs to tell people what to do. They simply form a line. No one pushes. No one tries to cut in line. You only enter the car after the last passenger has exited, and even with the platform crowded, you hardly hear a word. Talking on your cell phone on public transportation is rude. Eating there is also rude. If someone sneezes, they put on a mask, lower their gaze, almost apologizing. All of this happens because of a concept called meiwaku. It is the name the Japanese give to the inconvenience you may cause to others. And avoiding this inconvenience is not a personal choice, it is a collective value. Every action is thought out with others in mind, from taking off your shoes before entering a house to bowing when thanking someone. Everything follows a logic. Do not invade other people's space, do not disturb, do not stand out too much. In services, this translates into hospitality, the famous omotenashi. The attendant bows, thanks you several times, and hands you your change with both hands. And it is not exaggeration or empty formality. It is a kind of respect that has become a habit. And this goes beyond etiquette. It is a way of organizing coexistence in a society where everything is cramped: the streets, the apartments, the trains, and where the well-being of the group always comes before individual desires. Number 4. Education and discipline. If there is one place where Japanese values are clear, it is in schools. There, children learn from an early age that taking care of the space is everyone's responsibility. At the end of each school day, there is suji no jikan, or cleaning time. Students grab brooms, cloths, and buckets and clean the classroom, hallway, and even the bathroom. There is no janitor who does everything. The class itself divides up the tasks. This practice may seem strange to outsiders, but it has a very clear purpose: to teach discipline, teamwork, and respect for the collective space. A child who has just scrubbed the floor is unlikely to dirty it on purpose later. And this mentality goes beyond schools. It is common to see residents and shopkeepers sweeping the sidewalks in front of their homes and stores early in the morning. Everyone takes care of what is theirs, and also what belongs to everyone. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, these habits became famous around the world when Japanese fans began to appear at World Cups. While other fans left celebrating or lamenting, there they were, with plastic bags, picking up all the trash. And it wasn't just the fans. The Japanese team itself drew attention by leaving the locker room spotless after games, with thank you notes written in several languages. It's almost an extension of that ritual learned in school. In Japan, discipline is not just taught. It is lived, from the first day of school to the last whistle of a World Cup. Number 5. Family, tradition, and intergenerational respect. In Japan, family is more than just an emotional nucleus. It is the basis of identity, honor, and individual responsibility. For centuries, the Japanese family system has been governed by a concept called IE, which can be translated as home, but means much more. The IE is not just where the family lives, it is the lineage, the name, the reputation that spans generations. In this system, the eldest son had the mission of caring for his elderly parents, inheriting the house, and continuing the family name. Marriages, career decisions, even friendships, everything was influenced by the idea of maintaining the harmony of the clan. Today, modern Japan has moved away from this rigid structure, but many of these values still live on in everyday life. Respect for elders remains an unspoken rule. Talking to your grandfather or grandmother requires a more polished vocabulary. During visits, the elderly are the first to be served, and on New Year's Day, the most important date on the Japanese calendar, it is traditional to visit parents, grandparents, and the graves of ancestors. In fact, the dead are not forgotten. In August, the Obon Festival takes place. Thousands of families return to their hometowns. They decorate their homes with flowers, incense, and lanterns. They believe that the spirits of their relatives return for one last visit, and everyone gathers to welcome them, thank them, and remember them. This reverence for the elderly is also reflected in the numbers. Japan is one of the oldest countries in the world. More than 28% of the population is over 65 years old, and even with so many elderly people, it is not common to see them isolated. Many still work, walk alone on the streets, participate in group activities, and continue to be central figures within their families. What we see deep down is the continuity of an ancient value, caring for those who came before us. And even though young people today marry less, have fewer children, or live alone in big cities, respect for one's roots is still a strong link in Japanese culture. But this link can also be restrictive, because along with this sense of duty comes a burden that not everyone can bear. And that's where the cracks begin to appear. Number 6. When values become pressure. In a culture where the group always comes before the individual, those who don't fit in disappear. And that's not just a figure of speech. Every year, thousands of people simply disappear in Japan, without a trace, without explanation. They are called johatsu, which in Japanese means evaporated. Most disappear out of shame. Shame at having lost their job, at having gotten divorced, at not having lived up to society's expectations of them. And to avoid embarrassment, they prefer to disappear. They leave their homes, their documents, their identity. There are even companies that specialize in helping people disappear. They empty apartments at night, erase traces, and help clients start over from scratch somewhere else. And most strikingly, many families prefer to accept the disappearance rather than publicly expose the shame. And this is not the only symptom of a country that demands too much self-control. One of the best known and most worrying is karoshi, a word that means death from overwork. Yes, this is officially recognized in Japan. People who literally die from working too much. Heart attacks, strokes, physical collapse caused by working over 100 hours of overtime per month. There are reports of people sleeping at work, going home just to shower, working 7 days a week without complaining, because complaining would cause trouble. And causing trouble, as we have seen, is the worst mistake anyone can make. Another serious phenomenon is that of hikikomori, people, usually young, who isolate themselves completely inside their homes. Sometimes for months, sometimes for years. They don't work, they don't study, they don't interact with anyone. They live locked in their rooms, supported by their parents. Some don't even go out to eat. They receive food at their door. It is estimated that there are more than 500,000 hikikomori in Japan. And the actual number may be much higher, since many cases are not even reported. These young people are not rebels. They are people who, after trying so hard to fit into a rigid model of success, ended up giving up. And they prefer to disappear from the world. This is where the culture of silence, etiquette, discipline, and perfection begins to show its other side. Because maintaining social harmony in Japan often means erasing anything that threatens that harmony, including yourself. Number 7. Social pressure and silent exclusion. To conclude this section on the values that exert pressure, there is one thing that many people only realize when they live there. Not everyone feels like they belong. In Japan, the effort to maintain social harmony is so great that sometimes those who don't fit in simply disappear from society. Showing emotions in public is seen as a lack of control. Talking about depression or anxiety still carries a stigma. Seeking therapy, then, is almost like admitting personal failure, something to be ashamed of, to hide. This burden does not only affect the Japanese. Foreigners living in the country often report a constant feeling of exclusion. There are restaurants that refuse to serve tourists, even when the place is empty. Sometimes it's subtle. You hear "we're full," even when there are several tables available. It's not rudeness. It's a way of saying, without saying, that you're not welcome. And it doesn't just happen in restaurants. There is an invisible distance in social interaction. It is difficult to make friends with coworkers. It is rare to be invited into someone's home. No matter how much you learn the language, respect the customs, or strive to adapt, you may still be seen as an outsider. It is not about violence. It is a silent, polite, but firm distancing. It's the idea that what's different is uncomfortable, and that it's best to keep your distance. This invisible barrier, which separates without scandal, is also a form of pressure, because, deep down, the unspoken rule is always the same. If you can't fit in, it's better not to get in the way. It's difficult to fit Japan into a simple definition. On the one hand, it's the country of robots that serve ramen, bullet trains that are never late, and vending machines on every corner. On the other, it's a deeply traditional place, where ancient rituals are still alive, where silence is still worth more than shouting, where respect for the past often speaks louder than the desire for change. Japan remains one of the most respected countries in the world, but it is also one of the countries that hides its pain the most. And now that you've seen all this, tell us in the comments, would you live in Japan? Do you think you could live in a society with so many rules, values, and demands? Leave your opinion in the comments. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes of Bello Mundo. And try using the new Hype video feature. It really helps the channel reach more people and continue bringing you unbelievable content like this.